NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
We're back with the candidate for Charlestown St. Paul's constituency, J.D. Keynes. 1 year and 1 day ago, it was a Saturday, it was April 10th, and she announced herself to the constituency of St. Paul's, the people of Nevis, and of course the world. She gave a dynamic 15-minute and 2 seconds presentation. We'll reflect, and of course we will look forward. But before we meet J.D. Keynes here tonight, I would like to send hands across the waters to neighboring Anguilla, and a special shout out to Shelia Rogers Webster. She declared her candidacy today representing the Anguilla United Front in a by-election, and her motto is one choice, one vote. The Rogers family and the Manners family have had a long association going back as far as 40 years, and I've known Shelia for a while. Not too sure yet which country she loves the most, whether Nevis or Anguilla. Had the pleasure of attending her wedding here at the Eden Brown Church of God a few years ago with reception at the Oli Beach Hotel. And of course, in 2010, if memory serves, she represented Anguilla in the Miss Caribbean pageant put on by entrepreneur Randy Jeffers. I think the Nevis contestant in that year was Verna Grant. So I'm sure, JD, before we get into your reflection, you'd like to send congratulations across the waters. I'm sure through pageantry you must have met Shelia or in Woman Fora because you're kit and kin. So I'm sure you'd like to send some congratulations to her as we see another woman entering the political arena.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here on Von Radio, at Von Radio, for another chance to speak on your voice with the NRP. As you know, I am here quite often on a weekly basis, in fact, for Speak Up. That's on a Thursday night from 6:30 to 7 p.m. And ever so often I get the opportunity to sit across from veteran journalist and broadcaster Stevenson Manners to talk about, to amplify your voice. And tonight it's just him and I, and we expect a dynamic show. Yes, Mr. Manners, I want to offer congratulations and join the many others who have been offering congratulations to Shelia Rogers Webster, a young woman. We are seeing more females getting involved in elective politics. It will trickle in slowly but surely, and I am happy about this because we have a voice. We have a voice. For me, when it comes to women, I just want to see us taking our rightful place. And our rightful place is not necessarily above or in front men. It's on the same level, where persons no longer become surprised when they hear a woman is involved in elective politics. I want to get to that point where it is the norm. So heartiest congratulations to Shelia Rogers Webster. She's well known in Anguilla, and persons here know her. Mr. Mann spoke a little bit about her involvement here on the island of Nevis and in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So congratulations to her, and I wish her well. While I am on females in elective politics, I want to congratulate Marsha Henderson of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. She was recently launched as that party's candidate, contesting the St. Christopher II, if I'm not mistaken, seat, and it is expected that she will come up against the incumbent Honorable Jonelle Powell, So congratulations to Marsha. I don't know her personally, but again, as a woman in politics, I welcome her and I wish her nothing but the best. And of course, recently, a few months back, we had the announcement of Miss Natasha Gray, now Gray Brooks. People call her Shani. She, I know. And she too has stepped forward as a female in elective politics, and she will be representing the People's Action Movement. in the St. Christopher 1 seat. She's expected to come up against the Honorable Jeffrey Hanley, and that I expect to be quite an interesting one. So too with Marsha and Jonelle Powell. So ladies, congratulations on this bold step. Don't be afraid. Go out there, be fearless. But remember to stay in touch with your people. I welcome all of you and any other woman who wants to come forward and join this race. Come right ahead. Come right ahead. There is room for many more of us in elective politics. Mr. Manners, as I continue my introductions, allow me to offer heartiest congratulations to a young man who I am so proud of him. He's such a pleasant young man, always smiling. He means well. He's just a likable young man. He's passionate and he's talented, and he goes by the name of Tijari Clark. Tijari is the son of Charmaine Stevens of Craddock Road and Vern Clark of Government Road, Hamilton. And Tijari was recently announced that Tijari will join the Little Town Cricket Club in the United Kingdom. And Tijari, as I said to you today, as I saw you, and he grinned from ear to ear when he saw me, and I was teasing him, but I wish you nothing but the best. Go with God, learn all you can, and bring back whatever you can to those who have not gotten this opportunity as yet. But I'm proud of you, Tijari. We are rooting for you. So congratulations.
Well, very well said. And of course, he leaves the island on Wednesday. And we wish you all the best in your sojourn in the United Kingdom. And of course, JD, you must have had a weekend of reflection as Sunday marked 1 year.
Yes.
Since you were the first candidate launched for the Nevis Reformation Party. You announced then that you'd be number one in number one, and so it has been over the last 366 days.
Mr. Manners, it has been quite an interesting experience so far. I waited for that launch for quite a while. I was eager. And yes, you're so correct that this weekend I did some reflection. I recalled exactly what I was doing at what time throughout the day, and how I had everything, or I thought I had everything ready to go. I remember when I combed my hair. I remember when I got dressed. I remember everything. I remember typing a speech, preparing my speech, typing it and bringing it to the venue. And something came over me. To this day, I don't know what it was, but I just got a feeling that was not the speech I wanted to present. And so I put it aside, and I always have a notepad or something that I can write on. And I pulled that out, and I started writing right there on that night from the head table. I started writing. I just wrote what was in my heart, what I felt represented me, and what the people of St. Paul's wanted to see based on some of the conversations that I had even then with residents of St. Paul, and it came off well. We actually had a power outage just when I got to the microphone.
Yeah.
Just when I got to the microphone, and I said good night. There was a power outage, and trust me, everybody was in an uproar. People were living, but we found out that it was a car accident, and people were livid because people know what the history has been when it comes to politics in the Caribbean, particularly on the island of Nevis. So people were worried, but it turned out to be a car accident, and we were so grateful and pleased to know that the young man didn't suffer any major injuries. And the team of Nevlec, Ian Ward and his team, worked diligently to restore electricity so that we can carry on with our business. And the crowd stayed. They stayed with us. And those who were online, they realized that something was off, but obviously they didn't know what was wrong. But they kept refreshing the social media pages to see what was happening, and then they came back and they stayed with us throughout. And all in all, it was a wonderful evening, Mr. Manners. And so I had an opportunity to go back and replay my speech, my official speech. As you know, that event had endorsements from persons who know me personally and professionally. We also had my daughter doing a poem, endorsing me in her own little way. We had young, vibrant, dynamic people such Devon Cornelius was actually the chair of the program, and we had Senelda Willett as a member of the youth president of the youth I stand corrected, giving her endorsement as well. And of course we had the chair of the St. Paul's group, Dr. Kelvin Daly, chairman of the party, Hensley Daniel, and party leader, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge. It was a wonderful evening. And we can share. I think it's a perfect time now that we can just share highlights of that evening with members of the general public. Yes, it's 366 days. It has been 366 days since I was officially launched as the NRP's candidate for Nevis 1, St. Paul. So we'll get some highlights from that one.
Yes, let's indulge in some nostalgia. J.D. Keynes, Saturday, April 10th, 2021, in the midst of a pandemic.
I am here for Univisions, persons whose livelihoods are rooted in this island. I am also here for those of you who would have made Nevis your home. You weren't born here in Nevis, but you would have made this island your home. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking that this party, the Great Nevis Reformation Party, is not for Nevisions, because that is simply not true. Don't let them tell you that we are not for non-nationals, because that is simply not true. It is this party, the Nevis Reformation Party, that would have done so much to make life better for all of us here and those who couldn't be here tonight.
Mr. Manners, I think that one is timely. I think that one is timely. We have about 3 of them, but I think that one is timely because in that speech 366 days ago, I spoke about the fact that the NRP is all inclusive. The NRP cares about persons who are born here on the island of Nevis, as well as persons who have made Nevis their home. And I say it is timely because we realize that on social media in particular lately, we are hearing from the other side. First, it was that the NRP does not care about the non-national community. And most recently, we are hearing that the NRP does not care about Nevisians. and so this is so timely that, I can reflect even then that this has always been the MO, the modus operandi of those on the other side, divide and rule. But that's not going to work this time. And so I am happy that this one has come in at this particular point in time, because it is a fact. It is the Nevis Reformation Party that has done so much for the persons of Nevis who were born on the island of Nevis, as well as persons who have made Nevis their homes. I mean, we can talk about access to housing. We can talk about making health care across the board at a level where when you go to the Alexandra Hospital now, there is no longer a price for the non-national community versus a price for those who are citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis when it comes to, going to the outpatient department. But there are so many things that the NRP would have done, and so I am so happy that this clip came up now. But let's take in another one.
Listening to your concerns and ideas. And let me tell you, single mothers, I want you to know, I want to let you know that I have heard you. I heard you when you said that times are hard. Single mothers, I heard you when you said that there is no food in your cupboards. I heard you. I heard you when you said you had to choose between paying the electricity bill and buying food. Single mothers, I heard you. Single mothers, I heard you when you said that you have no employment. I heard you. I heard you when you said that you have no confidence in your children's future. Single mothers, I heard you. Young men, I want you to know that I heard you too. Young men, I heard you when you said that you can't provide for your children because jobs are scarce. Young men, I heard you when you said that you too see no future in Nevis. Young men, I heard you. Aspiring entrepreneurs, I want you to know that I heard you. I heard you when you said that you have ideas but you don't know where to start. I heard you when you said that there is no investor confidence in this government. I heard you. I heard you when you said that you don't have any confidence in the leadership of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, I heard you. Aspiring entrepreneurs, I hear you. Non-nationals, I want you to know that I hear you. I heard you when you said that you don't really support this government, you know. But you are afraid because when they come around, they tell you if you don't vote for them, that things will happen to you. I also heard you when you said that they told you that if you vote for the NRP, that we will send you home. I heard you, non-nationals, and particularly those of the Spanish-speaking community. Al público de habla hispania, le digo que hay que darle una oportunidad al Nevis Reformation Party. Dale una oportunidad a J.D. Keynes. No permitas que este gobierno y sus afiliados te engañen haciendo tú cree que no le agrada ese NRP. Eso no es verdad. NRP abraza a personas de todas nacionalidades y razas. Solo te pedimos que regulares tu estado. No tienes que tener miedo. NRP ayudará a mejorar la vida de todos los que llaman hogar a Nevis. Ayúdame a ayudarte para que puedas ayudar a tus familiares. Recuerdo el nombre. Remember the name. J.D. Keynes.
J.D. Keynes, straight out to San Pedro de Macorís. And you know, it's quite interesting in that clip. While others, the incumbent is dealing with tomfoolery and dealing with divide and rule. You're talking bread and butter issues.
Yes.
Issues which affect and impact lives and livelihood.
Mr. Manners, and I think that is what we should be about. That is what governance ought to be about. We can't continue to operate this way. We can't continue along this path where we are so caught up in silly things, and we are so concerned with dividing people, creating a rift, turning one set of people against the other. We can't continue along this path. And I'm not even that mad at the politicians who continue to do this. I am more upset at our people, because we are the same people who whisper, man, I don't like this, I fed up, and we complain bitterly about these things. But when it gets to an election cycle, it seems like we get so caught up in the drama. Drama won't feed your children. Drama won't create opportunities for your children. Having the best sound bites is not going to work for your children. So we have to be focused on the bread and butter issues. And if it means that we have to reach the Spanish community in their native tongue, then we'll try. I'm not perfect, but I know some. I know some. But the reality though, Mr. Manners, is that this is a very real concern on the island of Nevis, that the non-national community continues to operate in fear. Some members of the non-national community continue to operate in fear. And it is not right. You have made Nevis your home. You are trying to create a better life for your children and your family. You should be able to vote. If you are able to vote, you should be able to vote for the party that you think can competently lead Nevis. The same goes for us here on the island of Nevis. We should be upset. I find that we are not upset enough. We should be upset at the lack of accountability. We should be upset that there aren't opportunities being provided. Anything that happens on the island of Nevis is because somebody else out there came forward and said, you know what, I love Nevis, let me do this for Nevis. What has this government done but give empty talk and rhetoric on social media? And when we go into press conferences and just get caught up in the sound bites, some of us say anything once there is a camera. We care not the impact. We care not whether it is true. Mr. Manners, I remember one time when I was in university, someone said to me, a friend of mine from St. Kitts said to me, cussing doesn't got to be sweet. Cussing doesn't have to be true. You just got to sound sweet. And that is the reality. And you and I have had a career in journalism, so we know that there are certain things that will make the sound bites. We cannot allow people to fool us with what makes it sound bite. It is not everything that goes out in the public domain is true. And that is why we need to listen. Don't just listen to the green. Don't just listen to the blue. Listen to everybody. Mr. Manners, I think we have an... Oh, go ahead.
Well, before
Yes.
you go on to that, let me just say that this is not going to be a cussing election. This is going to be a serious election.
Correct.
Probably the most serious in our lifetime.
Yes.
And serious times demands serious people.
Yes. Yes.
And that is what it is all about. And that's why we come here on a Monday night and share the issues with you without being unkind to anybody.
Correct.
But simply stating the things as we see it.
Yes.
I know you've got another clip, JD.
Yes. So let's take in the final clip from the launch. We're just, for those who have just tuned in, we're just reflecting on my candidacy launch, driving candidacy launch from last year, April 10th. You know, we were in a COVID-19 pandemic. And so we had to be quite creative in how we were presented. And I was the first, so I had to be extra creative. And so we thought, why not a drive-in candidacy launch? So let's hear the final clip from that one.
St. Paul's, whether you're a teacher or a carpenter, JD is in your corner. If you are a sportsman or woman, or even a doctor, I am in your corner. If you are a CCM supporter who recognizes the need for change, I am in your corner. St. Paul's, I am in your corner. NRP, I am in your corner. Nevis, I am in your corner. I said it before and I'll say it again. NRP, this is our time. St. Paul's, this is our time. Nevis, this is our time.
No question about it. The other team has been in office for going on 10 years, and they've been found severely wanting. So much so that as the election nears in Nevis, they're trying desperately to conflate the Nevis election with the federal election and throwing darts across the Narrows. Everything is Finkett's fault. Everything is Harris's fault. But they said they've been keeping promises. But that's not the experience on the ground.
Keep promising.
Now, JD, 1 year after, what
Yes.
has happened in the interim?
Well, Mr. Manners, it has definitely been a learning experience. I've said on many occasions that probably my teachers, even from primary school, would tell you that they're not surprised that I've gone along this path. They're probably surprised that it's happening right now, but they're not surprised because this is something that I've always been into. I have always wanted to give back. I've always been involved in giving back and helping and just trying to make life better, not just for myself but for the persons around me. When I give genuinely. And I want to say this while I'm on the topic of giving. I realize that, you know, when you become a political candidate, people start looking at you to give. And nothing is wrong with that, because you're offering yourself up as a servant of the people, and so you should be giving. But I need us to consider that we have to do things differently. So understand, you see me, I will give as much as I am able to, but I have to always give preference to the issues that really matter. And so, for example, sometimes you may want a $200 for a dance or $500 for a dance. I may not have 500. I may not be able to give you 500. I may not be able to give you anything at all, because there is a mother who has not worked for 2 years with 3 children who have nothing to eat, and they would have to take priority. And so these are the things that we need to consider. People are getting caught up with this. Everything has to be a handout. Everything. Mind you, there's nothing wrong with sponsorship and donations. But I need our people to get to that stage where we are no longer relying on handouts. I don't want, the time has come for us to say so long bye-bye to administrations and politicians and governments that give us just the bare minimum so we can feel good in that moment, but then come back and beg again later on. The time for that is over. That has passed. I want to get our people on a level where you can give me something just because you want to, not because I am asking. That is what we want to see. That is what the NRP wants to do for the people of Nevis. But But back on topic, Mr. Manners, yes, a lot has happened since then. As you know, we continue to dialogue with the people of the community to assess their needs, to assess the things that they really want to see. And we are doing this in creative ways. Naturally, I won't say all of the ways that we are doing this, because, hey, this is the Eastern Caribbean's powerhouse. Everybody listens to this station. And so it means that the other side, maybe they are taking notes. But yes, we've been doing a lot of house-to-house activities, and I'm really trying as much as possible. I did it before, but I'm doing it even more so now, to really touch people where it matters. You know, as I mentioned the scenario just now about the family members and their situations, that's where my focus is. So for example, you would find that last year, Father's Day, I may not have been able to bring everybody together and have a dinner or a brunch, but what was I able to do? With the assistance of some others in the community, offer gas vouchers to fathers from varying parts of St. Paul's. These are the little things that matter. These are the little things that mean something to people. There are children whose lunches I've had to subsidize every now and then. I don't want a tap on the shoulder. I don't want a pat on the back. These are things that I did even before I was a political candidate. So sometimes people ask me, you know, what is different? The only thing different is I have to dress up a little bit more often. That's the truth. I have to, and you know, people are a little bit more in my business. But the reality is, this is me. This is JD. What you see is what you get.
Now, sadly, in this Westminster system, prime ministers and premiers have the luxury of being the only one to know when to ring the bell to call an election. They like to say they have the date in their back pocket. And we know this government is desperately searching for an opening while blaming everybody except themselves.
Yes.
We know their paraphernalia arrived going on 2 weeks, was cleared out the next morning at the Long Point Port. So we know they're getting ready. What else have you got to put in place before they muster the courage to ring the bell and allow the Nivision people to elect a government of their choosing?
Well, Mr. Manners, I don't know. You said they're getting ready, but I know that the green team is ready. So, I mean, I don't know what else they're trying to do, what else they're putting in place. That's for them to work on. But if the bell is rung tonight, NRP will be ready. If the bell is rung 2 months from now, NRP will be ready. If the bell is rung a month from now, the NRP will be ready. We are ready. We came into this being ready. We didn't have to hunt down anybody to get them to come forward. This is something that has been in our people. People are fed up. People want to see better done on the island of Nevis. You think it is right when we see people, some CCM supporters as well, both CCM and NRP supporters, having to come to you and beg you for something to eat, because not because they really want to, you know, it's because they have no choice. You know, that cannot be a comforting situation when we see parents having to work several jobs because they remember the time when they weren't working at all, and so they have to leave the children at home while they work these several jobs. Anything can happen. It's not a good feeling. So we are ready. We want to see these things come to an end, and if we can't eradicate them totally, definitely minimize them by a great percentage. So Mr. Manners, they could come tonight. They could have come yesterday. Are you ready? And I know that the other 4 candidates are equally ready.
Well, I've said for some time that we're into what is known as the fix-it zone. In the dying moments of an administration, they're running hither and thither, trying to do things which they should have done over the period of being in government.
Yes.
So that, for instance, you have lobbied hard for the netball complex to be fixed. It was lying there in a state of disrepair for a very long time.
Awful.
That's now being fixed.
Yes.
Cleone Stapleton has been lobbying for some work at the Cotton Ground Playfield. That is now being addressed.
Yes.
So we know the time is nigh.
Yes.
But we're at the top of the hour. It's 9 o'clock. And so we're going to take a break, and we're going to be right back with other issues. It's getting hot in here.
But the economy is broken, the government stick, and the opposition come and take a seat. The debt is high and employment's low, and it's the poor people who taking the blow. I say we tired, we need a revolution. We just can't depend on vaccine
And we're back on a Monday night with your voice, with the NRP, and our special guest tonight, the dynamic J.D. Keynes. You can join us by calling 469-1616, 469-1700. Now we're weeks away from the biggest sporting event on the island, the Inter-Primary Athletic Championships, called the Mini Olympics. Yesterday, well, over the weekend, Saturday actually, we saw some bizarre scenes unfolding at one of our beaches as our children readied themselves for the Inter-Primary coming up at the end of the month. I've searched high, I've searched low, I've searched east, north, west, and south. I can't see a condemnation from the Premier of Nevis, or indeed from the Minister of Youth and Sports, the Honorable Eric Evelyn. Videotapes have been making the rounds. I saw people with 404 shares, 300 and odd comments, but not a word from our leadership. JD, I know you've seen them too. What are your thoughts? But hold your thought. We've got a caller on the line, probably somebody who was an eyewitness to the bizarre events unfolding. If you were there, if you witnessed it in person, give us a call. Let us know what was said, what you saw. Of course, we saw it in a videotape. We've got our first caller for the evening. Good evening, caller.
Good evening to the panel. Good evening, Mr. Manners. How are you doing?
Oh, we're doing very well.
You sound like that.
Thank
Mr. Manners,
you.
I am from Nevis. I don't deal with individual. I deal with position, seat. If you see what I'm saying. You hold a chair of a certain position, that's what I deal with. So, for example, J.D. Keynes is a candidate of the Nevis Reformation Party. I am not looking at her as J.D. Keynes, because that to me is personal. I'm looking at her as a candidate for the Nevis Reformation Party, if you see what I'm saying.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I look at Bracha. Bracha of blessed memory, the first premier, well, maybe the first, but whatever, Bracha.
Mm-hmm.
Bracha went to St. Thomas and said to Cyril King, your beach belongs to the people. The beaches of the Caribbean belongs to the people. No matter what you think about Bracha, he made the statement in St. Thomas after he made it in Nevis. He did it first in St. Kitts. He had no problem in St. Kitts, but he had to come over to Nevis to settle a couple of scores in Nevis. The premier have the seat. I'm not talking about Mark Brantley, I'm talking about the premier have the seat. He now have to make that statement. He has to reiterate the statement. The beaches of Nevis belongs to Nevis, the people. It's a public beach. When people are selling properties and they are doing the government or private investors, they have to understand to tell the people the road, certain roads are access roads, certain beaches are access beaches. I can't understand. You're trying to get El Comedo Village Park, and you're still hearing people say Grove Park. But today you're hearing Chris's Beach, Holy Beach. So you are telling me they take we could more gravitate to the name of other people rather than our own name. If you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We are gravitating to the things that they are doing. I mean, a man of recent memory, recently, with the guy named Putin, Vladimir Putin. He just said the black nations are depending on the Chinese to develop their country. That's a harsh statement, rather than us. You know, with that take me now to, I'm reading something that the Premier wrote, saying NRP did not work with them with the COVID, and they did not work with them to gain the fair share. I don't think that's a very good statement coming from the Premier. And I'll tell you why. The Premier gets $5 million to do startup in the country. Women of all ages and men 35 years and under. Only about 2 people get the loan. What, $5 million? You could get up to $100,000. We had a pandemic. Their cabinet discontinued small business from operating. When they start doing when they start, small business start go back to operate, we get no assistance from the government. None, absolutely none. When NRP was giving out, food packages, some was stored at the NRP office in Nelson Spring. Some was, just bear with me, and some will be stored in Fountain and other places. Every individual in Fountain get a food package. When CCM started to give out, they give to certain known supporters. How could you now say NRP didn't help during the pandemic, during the COVID, when you are the one who did not give everybody? And if you look at it further, when you look at it, after he made another statement to say we didn't get the fair share. Mr. Manners, come on, let's be fair. You remember well in 1983 when Vance went neutral. It took us all to go back. It took us, it was 1993, right? 1993. Yeah, it took us all to Grove Park, and I could remember distinctly when Vance made his speech, and he said, they didn't fix our police station. That was after the police station got burned down. They didn't give us no school. They didn't fix our road. That they at that time was spam. So he's not going to join with them. I am saying here, how come now today I am hearing on PAM platform that we are not getting fair share, and you didn't take us to El Comido Village Park to tell us nothing. You didn't take us to none of the 5 community centers that NRP built to tell us anything. You went on PAM platform to tell PAM people that we are not getting fair share, and now you're saying NRP is not helping you. But that's not what the mantra was. The mantra was, I am going to sink it to get me fair share. Send us down there. So if you fail and you didn't ask NRP for help, that I know NRP is capable of, how come they're going to blame NRP? And NRP must say these things. They must speak out.
Yeah.
Because if small business in Nevis is suffering and nothing sink it, that means something is wrong. What I was hearing, the best relationship, NRP is getting loan, Nevis is getting money, real money, and now you're saying we are not getting real money, but NRP is not helping us. I don't like that. JD, how could you adjust that for me, please, tonight?
Well, JD, before you look at that, though, let me say it's all part of the shenanigans as we go into an election. And we see the accusations that the NRP is not helping, I look at the Premier standing outside government headquarters last week as he awaited his meeting, and I said, since he couldn't get the job done in 9 years or 7 years, I wonder if he had asked the leader of the NRP, Dr. Daniel Hodge, to accompany him, if that wouldn't have brought immediate result. That would be a way of showing that you're working in tandem.
But you're right with that, but that's what my argument is. You didn't tell us that. You told the people in convention, but now you're coming back from a convention to tell us, the people now, oh, we didn't get the help from NRP, but you never did ask. You would have to ask. You would have to make the point and say, hey, listen here. This is where we are at this point. We need your assistance. Nevis, one voice. And let's go and get Nevis money. And because if you don't do that, Mr. Manners, what you would soon find, Nevis people would be asking, okay, you get $400 million. What did you do with it? Maybe it is here written, the hospital, unfinished, whatever. It went over there. But people soon start to ask questions. So you now would have to tell the people, let's go with one voice because I need help in getting Nevis money. I made this statement before, I'm going to do it now again. Until this money coming to Nevis, small business and small people, I'm not going to fight for it. Because I ain't going to fight for nobody for the election here to give money to other people to vote, because the Premier made it. The Premier said people would be fools to vote, to take money to vote. And if you're going to take money to vote, you're going to be fooled. Well, I mean, in such little words that people can understand.
Okay, thank you,
You could talk about election here, but one of the things you have to remember, politicians know who they're talking to. Because they could say certain things, and high-profile people with great mind and great IQ would say, he's talking rubbish. But the other man over there, you think he's going to say the same thing? Come on. You know, so, yeah.
Thank you, caller. JD, I see you've been making copious notes.
Yes, so I want to, before I get back to the beach incident, I want to comment on something the caller said. Some very good points, and he shared his thoughts, and we welcome differences of opinion, and I like the passion in his voice. You can see that, you can tell rather, that he is passionate about what's happening, particularly as it relates to the small businessman and how we are able to survive and the struggles we face here on the island of Nevis. Now, there was something that he said though, as it relates to help from the NRP and the Premier's claim that the NRP has not lifted a finger to help the people of Nevis, because that's the length that he went to when it related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and now as it relates to getting Nevis's fair share. Well, I want to say this. I said it earlier. I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to add to it. It's not everything that's in the public domain. It's not everything that's a soundbite. It's not everything that's posted on social media is a fact. Anybody can go on social media and post anything. Anybody can speak to the media and say anything. So not because our premier or any other minister of government speaks behind a microphone means that what they are saying is the truth. Because I know that this Nevis Reformation Party has sought to help on numerous occasions. The problem is, we will not be bullied. We will not be bullied, and that is the crux of the matter. The Premier and his administration, by extension, wants to bully the NRP and dictate what kind of help we should give. No. So, for example, when it came to the COVID-19 pandemic, how could it be said that the NRP did not lift a finger when members of the Nevis Reformation Party were part of a meeting with other political parties and leaders and the task force talking about the best way forward? We went further. We penned a letter with our recommendations. Come on. There's so much that has been done, but because we have not done it the Premier's way, it's an issue. Well, we will not be bullied by no sheriff nor his deputy. Further, we were talking about the fair share. Yes, the fair share, and that again has come up, that the NRP has not lifted a finger to lobby for Nevis's fair share. Well, how many fingers did you lift in 7 years? How many fingers did they lift in 7 years for Nevis's fair share? Who tell you that the NRP's way of getting fair share is to go on a platform and cuss out, dirty stinking cuss out, and say it like it is? The Prime Minister who was sitting right there. Let us call a spade a spade. That is not the NRP's way.
Diplomacy matters.
Exactly. Diplomacy matters. That is not the NRP's way. So because we didn't take that stand, because we didn't tell you, yes, you're right, or good, that means that we have not lobbied for Nevis's fair share. We have been lobbying for Nevis for years. It was the Nevis Reformation Party that really got Nevis to any semblance of hope and any semblance of a bright future. All that is happening now is that the Concerned Citizens Movement, led by this current administration, is eradicating or is taking us backwards. That is what is happening. And the song that played during the break, it said people used to matter, but people no matter no more. And that is the fact, Mr. Manners.
I think we've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller. Welcome. Could you lift your voice a bit? You're sounding a little low.
Good evening, Mr. Manners.
Yes, good evening.
And good evening to Jerry.
Good evening.
I want to address the second half of the Premier's accusation or allegation that the Nevis Reformation Party has not helped him to make sure that Nevis gets its fair share. Now, my question to the Premier is this. When he sat down to pen his Charleston Accord that he boasted about so much, did he consult with the Nevis Reformation Party about this deal that he was making with PLP and PAM? The answer to that is absolutely not. If he had consulted with the Nevis Reformation Party, they would have advised him that this thing that you're putting together must be in law. And if you're going to put it together, you must make sure that it goes to the parliament and is codified. If you do not do anything about it, it makes absolutely no sense. And so here he has gone out on a limb by himself, beating his chest that he is the brightest, the smartest, the wisest, the baddest, and he's going to make sure that Nevis get his fair share from the sinkings if we give him 3 seats. They gave him the 3 seats that he said that he wanted, the people of Nevis. And after 7 years, he coming around because he has failed and blaming NRP for his failure. He will continue to fail because this young man does not have a clue in regards to what it takes to run a country. He has demonstrated this over and over and over. The problem that I have, that the more he shows what a big failure he is, the more support he gets. And I hope that this cycle around in the election that Nivijans will come to realize that this man is finding excuse for his failures, and therefore that they will send him off with a nice bye-bye, get him out of the way. The second thing I want to address is the issue down on the beach, Mr. Manners. Because I was disturbed that it took our premier over 2 days to respond.
Oh, he has?
Oh, yes, I think he responded.
Tonight.
Well, since we've been on air.
Since we've been on air, he has responded. Okay? But it took him that long to respond. I remember that not long ago, the Guyanese would have had their festivity. NRP supported their festivity. 4 of the candidates were at the activities. 1 did not make it because that one had a previous engagement. Something was said in regards to the premier and his clownish behavior, and it didn't take him 3 or 4 hours to respond and condemn NRP. Well, how is it took him over 2 days to respond to a non-national coming into Nevis, going on the beach, and attacking our teachers, the trainers, and our students? The reason why that individual and others will do this is because they're empowered by our leader to do it. Because whenever we speak up on behalf of the people of Nevis, whether it's regards to the high position that he gave away to all non-nationals, or we speaking to a non-national disrespecting us and our customs, he never took our side. He always went on this side of the non-nationals. And so here, this woman felt empowered after listening to our premier over and over, going on their side and against the people of Nevis. Now, this is a clear case for the people of Nevis to recognize that the premier is not fighting on our behalf. He has been fighting against us all the while. And again, this is another reason why we should send him home, because he has shown us that he do not really care about us, the people of Nevis. Thank you.
Oh, okay, yes. The reason why it has taken 50 plus hours for a response is because he was ignoring the noise. Now, the first caller spoke about historical events and evoked the name of Robert Bradshaw. There were 2 incidents, one which took place in the Cliff Dwellers area when a fence was being built by the owners, and Bradshaw came to Nevis to make them tear it down. And the other was at the Bath Hotel when a gentleman by the name of Claude Barber prevented Nivisions from entering the Bad Springs. I think we've got another caller though. Good evening, caller. I think we lost it. And Premier Bratcher entered the Bad Stream, entered the property with 150 persons and with a megaphone, and dared the owners of the Bath Hotel to make him come out of the Bad Springs. And so there we saw leadership, and now we've been calling for it for over 2 days. Glad to know it has eventually come.
Mr. Manners, well, you are glad to know that it has eventually come. Well, I don't reward mediocrity, Mr. Manners, right? I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%. But I am not going to reward mediocrity, and this is why I'll say this. I believe in letting things get to the point of being resolved amicably. I like that. And so if it is that the situation was amicably resolved, I'm happy for that. But it ought not to have happened. And the way that we will help it not to happen again is by taking a stand. And I am a parent, and many of you know that I am a very passionate parent, because I remember when I showed...
Hold it there, JD, in the interest of the caller, and we've lost it.
We lost the caller. Sorry about that. Yes, I am a parent, and I'm a very passionate parent. And I remember when I showed it to my daughter, and she was shocked, and then eventually said, "Mommy, suppose that was me." I said, "Child, go from here, because you don't like your mother." The caller is back.
I think we've got the caller back. Good evening, caller. You're on.
Mr. Manners, good night.
Hi, good night, Montserrat. How are you? Your favorite lady's on.
Yeah, my favorite lady on, but not for the longest while night, Monday night after me just can't get in at last week. The engineer said that hear me, may he loud and clear.
Well, you're on now.
You're on now, yes, and we're happy to have you.
Maybe I wonder if you block.
No, we'll never do that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, me say, me kind of vexed with that,
Why?
The Prime Minister of the Federation give some information. He actually helped for your campaign, and up to now, me listen to JD and Ron Panting, and me not say use up the information. Them
Advise us.
The Prime Minister actually tell you that up to this day, fair share talk never come in the cabinet. Now I got they say give us the vices and let we go downtown. And the 3 vices up to today never carry fair share matter in the cabinet. And me no hear attack that at all. And listen. The Prime Minister, okay, your Premier say that whatsoever go on out in the Nevis, that the Prime Minister say he do this and he do this and he pay for this and he pay for that. And your Premier say that he not got no handling there. He said, in other words, your Premier say to you, actually the Prime Minister or the Federation around Nevis. I wanna check out the information there.
We're listening.
So the Prime Minister of the Federation, right? He run one government. Government he run. In other words, you need to tell your Premier that that one ordinary citizen, something not go right with one government. One ordinary citizen can put the government before the court and actually
make somebody go to jail and so you know that?
Yes, I'm aware.
One ordinary citizen, not no other government minister, just one ordinary citizen. Listen you now. The Charlestown Accord where you premiere and make noise about and no a legal document.
And he's a legal man. A brilliant legal mind.
Exactly. So sometimes me hear Jerry, me not think I'm more even, but sometimes me hear Jerry say, I just say, oh Lord, me only wish me could have just whisper to Jerry and say, Jerry, let's stop playing. You catch me? Listen. Washan and you premier. Actually, I say, I want gangster government, them they run, you know. But the Prime Minister, St. Kitts and Nevis, the Federation, I run one decent government.
But you see,
so
caller.
in other words, okay, I want the face here, come na my cabinet and lay we negotiate. Not one document, we not gonna wait. Not one, in other words, you tell them, I will not deal with one document that three political parties signed, that they can't carry no weight at all. You get that?
Yes. Caller, and you know, I'm listening to you, and you're making some very good points and very strong points, right? And you perhaps, because of where you sit, you're able to look and do a comparison from that end. You're looking at it holistically, and that's a very good approach. Understand, and there are others who do that as well. Understand, for me, while I am so interested in what is happening at the federal level, I am, because ultimately it would affect us here on Nevis. I like to dance home before I dance abroad. And I say that because, listen, the same people who are representing us at the federal level are also representing us at the local level. And there are so many things wrong here at the local level on the island of Nevis that we have to talk about. Nobody's talking about them. And yes, I agree that there is a lot. Go ahead, caller.
Let me just say this and let me done. Because me agree with what you say there. Me agree with what you say. And let me even back you up. Because me back you up from the federal level. Sean and you premier, they're back against the wall. That's how we see them. They're back against the wall. Now, them say, remember the promise or whatever with the promise.
Keep the promise.
Keep the promise. But then now, do he keep the promise over by you?
No, he just keep promising us.
Well, this exactly. So then, how you want to be so sincere over there, and you're not sincere over here?
Correct.
Okay, then me go ahead now, Mr. Manners.
Hi.
Me come back. Me put one little presentation together, but me prefer waiting when the bell ring.
We always enjoy hearing from you.
Thank you for calling.
Okay,
Have a good night.
And to the constituency number one, please. Look on JD, but me not ready for campaign yet. Okay then.
All right, have a good night. Take care.
Campaign manager, George.
Yes, and yes, Mr. Manners, the caller raised some good points, you know, and I could
hold it. This is caller's night.
Oh my.
We've got another caller on the line. Good evening, caller.
Mr. Manners.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good night.
I don't normally like to call more than once, but I think, with all due respect, we are missing a salient point.
Make it.
The Charlestown Accord was an accord between three political parties. Okay, agreed?
Yes.
You could cut me anytime. Could cut me off. Not cut me off, but cut me and ask me any question anytime.
No, go right ahead.
It was made between three political parties. I think we are missing something. And what we are missing is the three parties are at fault. The PLP, the CCM, and the PAM party are at fault for whatever going on in the accord. Now, you would listen Sean rigorously talking about the two-term along with the Premier also talking about the two-term. The Premier has pushed forward that the fair share for all and the fair share for navies is not being addressed by the Prime Minister. It's not the Prime Minister. It is not being addressed by the parties involved. All right? No. We can't always so much want to blame the Premier. We also have to blame Sean too, because are we talking about constitution? It's not a constitutional thing. And the reason why it is not a constitutional, I remember me talking from a Navy's point of view,
All
we are
politics
holding
is
the
local.
Prime Minister and as to term. That was written in the Charleston Accord also. That's not in the Constitution. So the Prime Minister have a right now to run for third, fourth and fifth term because it's not in the Constitution. And the same way the Prime Minister have a chance, have a right to run for another term that Sean don't want him to run for. It is the same right that we have in the same accord to ask for an fair share. So even though we are saying, oh, it wasn't in the Constitution and it should have been in the Constitution, yes, I agree it should be in the Constitution. So whether CCM lost the election and NRP come in and another party in sync it comes in, it is written in the Constitution. But with the arrangement, because remember they still have another 2-3 years before election call. And Sean is fighting for 2 term. Oh, you say you're going to take 2 term, but 2 term not in yet. And you fight for that. So at the same right, the Premier have now to say, hey listen, we want we fair share. Yes, it should engrave in the Constitution, but by right we are entitled to it because it is in the order, it is in the accord. I mean, these accord never work in navies because the 4-season accord never work. Tim Daniel had to run from that, and I mentioned that before. But I am saying it is very indigenous. Well, to be talking about, oh, it's not in the Constitution and it should have been there because you're a liar. No. You tell me we're going to do an accord, Navis is going to get the fair share. And remember, the accord was done under by the Premier, the present Premier, under another Premier. So the present Premier now is saying, hey, listen, I remember I did this accord, but me not see it happen then, and me not see it happen now. So me want it go on now. And the same way Sean say, I want it to term. Because Sean walk out, well, look, this Prime Minister, you want another term. Because he set up himself. So the Premier say the same thing. So the point I'm trying to make, let's not always say, oh, it's not in the Constitution, and it should have been in the Constitution by right. But it's an accord, it's an agreement, and it's a document, and it's legally binded among the 3 parties.
Caller, you've raised some good points, and I really like the debate this evening, Mr. Manners, and people weighing in. This is what we want. We want people to speak up and amplify their voices on matters that affect them and affect all of us. And the caller definitely raised some good points. I'll give you an opportunity to wrap it up, and then I can comment.
But what I'm saying here, we cannot, because you see, let me tell you something. I deal with politics, I deal with business. And you never allow a politician to get over another politician. Because once a politician gets over a politician, it means that they dive right into the electorate. And once you get into the people, the other politician is obsolete. And I think the Premier is doing just that. And you can, every time the Premier chose something, you jump at it. Because remember, this is the only thing that he's holding on to. I made an accord, and I'm not any support. And I don't want to go back to that. So yes, the accord is legal. The accord is legal, but they don't have to. It's not a bond, and they don't have to hold it. So the same way Sean is making the point, I am saying the same way the Premier have to make the point for Navis. Sean is making the point for the 2 term, and the Premier is making the point for the fair share. And I agree with the fair share. Only that I want it to come to Nevis. Nevis people and small business people. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Yes, so Mr. Manners, and the caller raised a very good point just now. He said something.
Hold it again.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. You know, he's talking about, and others have spoken about these matters that continue to be addressed at the federal level. They continue to be addressed in every forum. They continue to be addressed on social media. And I am wondering if it's becoming a smoke screen to take us away from the matters here on the island of Nevis. Because don't get me wrong, I agree that Nevis needs more. I agree that Nevis deserves more. I agree that Nevis is entitled to more. And I can say without any water in my mouth that leaders past and present have not given Nevis the more that we deserve. I say that with no apology. However, I also want to see my little Nevis being self-sustainable. I want to see my little Nevis taking that more that we are entitled to and putting it as gravy on the rice, not something that we are relying on, something that we are dependent on.
JD, we've got another caller. Welcome, caller. Good night. Could you lift your voice, caller?
Mr. Manners.
Hi.
Yeah. To your last caller. When he not got to right. And on the constitution, you know. I have to bring the Charlestown Accord in the cabinet and make them become one legal government document. You know, for trouble the constitution. But the agreement there by three political parties. You know, a political party end, political party end. They're the polling booth, you know. Outside of the polling booth, a member select now to become on government. You get that?
Yes, I get that.
Exactly. So this is what they might mix. No. Even the two terms that they have to go in the cabinet, then to parliament, then come out in the gazette. So if you notice, them it try them, but then put the blame on the Labour Party and say that Denzel Douglas and them
did not support it.
Vote. That they mean some kind of something. Anyway, now, see them get more, and since they get more, look, they not touch them. You get the point?
Yes.
So tell me, friend, is not the matter of the Constitution. So let me forget about the Constitution. You have to take the Charlestown Accord now. And come the cabinet, they come to parliament, and they become one government document. Okay?
Well, all of the things that you guys are talking about, yes. I mean, we
okay, then.
Yes, good night.
We want them to happen, but they can only happen if we are elected. And we have to talk about the things that we will do and how we plan to represent the people locally before we can even go federally. And one of the things, yes, you say we should put certain things aside. One of the things I don't want to leave here with and put aside tonight is what happened on the beach recently that Mr. Manners, asked about. So, yes, we know now that a statement was made while we've been on air. That is of no moment to me. What I am saying is that it ought not to have happened. And I don't blame any single person except for who committed the act for what happened, right? However, I am also not going to nail you to the cross because we all make mistakes. I will say though, I hope that this has been a teachable moment to everyone. Persons who've never been to Nevis, persons who are on Nevis, persons who are part of this thing, to know that this is not tolerated on the island of Nevis because our beaches are public. And I mean, we are dealing with children, and I think that it should have been handled with a little bit more tact. I will say though that if the situation was resolved amicably, that is great, and kudos to all parties involved. But I needed to have my voice on record as saying that what happened should have never happened. It was gross misconduct in my view, and it's a shame that our children had to be exposed to that. But I want to pause here and really commend the teachers and children of that school, because I thought from the little clip that I saw that they handled it well. Because I know some other parents who said that they would have handled it differently, and so the situation would have gone even worse. So I commend the school and I commend the teachers and parents who were there for what I saw. I don't know if there was more, but what I saw, I thought it was a very good display of maturity, and you kept it together. So I want to commend you. And children, keep pushing. Keep pushing. We know you want to do well at interprimary. Keep pushing, because hey, you can, whatever you put in is what you'll get out at the end of the day. So I really wanted to just take a moment and speak to that, Mr. Manners. Another thing that I wanted to mention, because I know that we are coming up on that 10 o'clock hour, Mr. Manners, is that a lot is happening and a lot of things continue to be said, and everything that we are talking about tonight keeps taking me back to my statement earlier that not everything that is put in the public domain is truthful. You and I, because we take pride in our reputation and in what we do, we are going to make sure that we verify certain things and we are careful about what we say. It's not everybody who does that. Some of us are more concerned with the now. And reality is, some persons can't really think on the spot too. There are different types of people, so they just say whatever comes to mind. There are different types of people. So I need all people to start to think for themselves. And you cannot think for yourself listening to one radio program or listening to one radio station. You have to listen across the media. You listen to media houses that are on different sides of the fence. Listen to candidates who share different political opinions. Case in point, Mr. Manners, just recently I was able to, just like so many others in Nevis, hear a clip from our premier talking about constitutional reform. And man, I stand with my premier 100% as it relates to bribery and voter buying. Our premier spoke about that and he condemned it. He said that ought not to happen. And I agree with him 100% that ought not to happen. And so I want our people to remember that it was our premier who told us that ought not to happen, and that you should be insulted when people try to pay you for your vote. Remember, it was our premier. And remember that I say that I stand with our premier when it comes to that no one should be bought and you should be insulted. So I want our people to, and for those of you who haven't heard the clip, I'm sure you will hear it before the end of the night because it's all over. But I heard it, and when I heard it, I said, wow, good done, my premier. Well done, my premier. Good job. Good job, my premier. You are putting these things aside. You are telling people, no, we want free and fair elections on the island of Nevis. And I can assure you that if we get free and fair elections on the island of Nevis, with the absence of any bribery, with the absence of any taking advantage of people, you will no longer be premier, nor will you be the sheriff.
Of course, JD is referring to a UWI-sponsored town hall meeting held yesterday, in which the Premier sounded off on constitutional reform and issues such as bribery. And as JD said, make sure that you've got his words and be guided by them in the next local elections.
Yes.
Now 14 minutes to 10, time disappears when you're here, JD. And I know you've got some other matters to deal with.
Yes. Just things I want to touch on quickly. I know that we are at the end of another term 2, or the Easter term, and at the end of every term, parents and teachers, we get an opportunity to reflect. Some of us are leaving the term excited about our children's performance. Some are not excited. Some have mixed feelings. It's all natural, and it's been happening for some time. But I want our people, because I am very much into education, I want our people to use the feeling that they have right now and ask themselves, even if your child came home with a report card of all A's, ask yourself, if this is enough? Are you satisfied with where we are? And it has nothing to do with the ability of your teachers, because I know, and I want to commend the teachers. We have some excellent teachers here on the island of Nevis. I mean, my daughter has gone to some remarkable teachers. I can't pay them enough for the work that they do for my child and other children. So it's not a condemnation on the teachers or even those in authority when it relates to that. But what in terms of like the principal education officer, who by the way continues to do a wonderful job. But I want to remind you, and this is what I'm saying, the policy direction must come from the top. And I still think that we are not reaching some of these children the way that we can, the way that we have the capability of. And it is not because we are not trying, it is because in some cases the relevant things are not there to make it happen. So for example, you would find a teacher teaching maybe 15 students, 5 of whom are way at the top, excellent, and then you have 10 who are way at the bottom. Can you imagine how difficult it is for that teacher? Whereas if that teacher were to have another teacher there by his or her side, then we can offer a more amicable split, and we can do focus groups when it comes to children and their education. And people say we do that, but listen, don't fool yourselves. We don't do that half as we should. We don't do that anywhere near how often we should. I know, because I am a parent who is very passionate, who's ever present in the school system, so I know. And my daughter has been to many schools here on the island of Nevis. So I think that yes, we continue to make strides, but there's still more work that can be done. And this Easter term, the end of any school term, gives us an opportunity to reflect. And I am committing to doing all I can to improve the level of education on the island of Nevis. We just have to be a little bit more creative, and we have to throw some more support behind our teachers. And you will hear much more about the plans that we have for this, but just understand that JD cares about the education of our children. JD cares about providing opportunities in training and education for our people, and so keep that in mind. Also, we have the sports term as well, Mr. Manners. It's the sports term. We had the majority of meets at the Mondo track, and we are going to have the big one at the Mondo track in about 2 weeks, give or take 2 weeks. And guess what? The Mondo track is no more advanced than it was when it opened. Today I went there to take my daughter for training, and their children, they are waiting in the hot sun for the coaches to come. You know, they arrived a little bit early and they're waiting in the hot sun. There is nothing for the no permanent structure, no shed, no nothing. And then when you're at the Mondo track and you want to go to the bathroom, I mean, you have to walk such a distance, and it's still a temporary structure. You have to walk on the stands carefully, extra carefully, because some of them are falling apart. I mean, it's no more advanced than it was when the gates opened. And I'm saying that this is not enough. This is not enough, and we cannot be satisfied with the state of the Nevis Athletic Stadium, aka the Mondo track. We need better, and we deserve better on the island of Nevis. Before I forget, Mr. Manners, I want to touch on this thing. It has nothing to do with the Easter term, but it has to do with the level of information that we get and how our government continues to treat us like we are nobodies. Recently, I heard in a news item a senior member of government, a senior worker, talking about traffic changes that will take place in Charlestown effective April 11th. Mr. Manners, today is April 11th, and I work in Charlestown, and I have not seen any traffic changes. I'm saying, if it is a case where the information was revealed prematurely, it ought not to have been revealed because maybe it wasn't approved, whatever the situation is. You know that it got into the public domain. Why not come back to us and say, ladies and gentlemen, please disregard? No, it's just like leave it alone and it will go away. This is not good enough, guys. It is not good enough, and it speaks to how our government thinks of us. They don't think that we are capable of challenging anything, and if you do challenge, they say you grudge. If they do challenge, they say you're angry. Come on, we need to speak up. And listen, we are united in numbers. The more of us speak, you would realize how we will get results. So I wanted to put that in before I forgot. Now, Mr. Manners, another thing I want to touch on quickly, and I know I can't bring up all of the things that the NRP has done in the 10 minutes that we have remaining. I'll just bring up a handful, because we spent time in a press conference recently to talk about all of the money that wasn't coming to Nevis prior to 2017, and we spoke about the money that is coming to Nevis now but couldn't come to Nevis when an NRP government was in office. In Nevis, not in St. Kitts, in Nevis. So we spoke about that, and we condemned the NRP and said the NRP couldn't get in Nevis what the CCM is now getting in Nevis. However, the NRP has done more with less. The NRP has done more with less. Don't believe me? Drive over to Cherry Garden. We revolutionized housing on the island of Nevis. The NRP did that. More with less. Drive around the island of Nevis and you see state-of-the-art community centers. Everything the government keep now is in a community center. The NRP did that. More with less. Look at the many young men in Nevis who are now operating their own businesses or are able to make decisions in their places of employment because of skills training that they received under the Nevis Reformation Party. The NRP did that. More with less. The NRP went about renaming the island of Nevis in honor of ordinary Nevisians. The El Camino Tiwilet Park, the Strat Williams Drive, the Carl Tuckett Boulevard. I mean, what's his name?
Janet Grell
Hall, and yes, we had Franklin Brown Community Center, and the list goes on. The NRP did that. Ural Swanston Highway, the NRP did that. Renamed the island in honor of ordinary Nevisians, and we did that. We did more with less. So yes, have your song and dance, have your tea party about how much money we did not get from Nevis, but you now who are in both Nevis and St. Kitts are able to get and still can't produce. You still can't finish the Mondo track. You still can't finish the Holy Pier. The hospital ain't even start yet. We still can't get the fire station and police station in Newcastle up to par. The Van Stamp W. Amri International Airport is just over there, like an additional road on the island of Nevis. You can't do any of this, but the NRP did more with less.
Now, you make mention of the Mondo track, and the Premier is prone to say, oh, it's people saying it's not finished. We promised a track, and for 4 years we've just left it like that. Just for the record, the Kim Collins Athletic Stadium, albeit 15 years ago or so, was built for $3 million. The track in St. Vincent, which is at a similar stage, was built for $5 million. And $4.5 million is to be put into stands and other facilities. We have eaten up all of $11 million, and we're stuck. Really, really stuck. But we wish the children all the best as they go there in another 2 weeks. We hope there are no more incidents on the beach. Remember, as the mighty Gabby of Barbados told us, the beach is mine. Well, it's Easter weekend, and yes, I know there are some activities the party is planning.
Yes, there are lots of activities happening on the island of Nevis with the NRP planning, a whole bunch of them. And I'll start with those of my party. So we know that the Honorable Cleone Stapleton Simmons is back with traditional kite flying in St. Thomas's. She's actually encouraging, she's trying to keep the traditional alive by encouraging persons to come on out and engage in kite flying, you know. And so that is something that she has been doing, and she's doing again this time. So we want to encourage persons to take their children over there in Cotton Ground and let's get the tradition, keep the tradition alive. There's also going to be a fun day in St. Thomas's this weekend as well. Equally, we are going to have a fun day in St. John's on Saturday. But before the fun day in St. John's, there is going to be a health walk organized by the Nevis Reformation Party, where we'll be walking from Ex-Petrol in Newcastle to the NRP headquarters there at Nelson Spring. And we are encouraging persons to sign up. The admission is free. There's no admission at all. And if you require transportation, we can make that happen. But we need to know. So we are encouraging you to sign up as soon as possible and bring out your friends and family members. You don't have to work. It's a long weekend. Come on out and walk with us. It's going to be a nice walk. Persons who are interested in keeping fit, come on out and be part of that. And then, yes, after that, we're going to go to St. John's for Dr. Bartlett's fun day. We also have a fishing tournament in St. James on Easter Monday. Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge is sponsoring that one. She had the inaugural staging last year, and she's back again this year. It's going to be an exciting weekend. And I also want to encourage persons, this is not hosted by the NRP, but of course, as a resident of St. Paul, as the candidate for the NRP in St. Paul, I want to encourage persons to also drop by the St. Paul Fun Day, which is also happening on Monday at the Quaddock Road, Ramsbury Field. I'll be there for a bit because I'm sponsoring as well. And so I just want to encourage persons to have good, clean fun this Easter weekend. Good, clean fun. We could talk with politics, but we're not going to get mad at anybody. We're not going to allow anybody to divide us anymore. We are going to come together this Easter weekend and going forward. So I just wanted to put those out there, Mr. Manners. I hope I'm not missing any of the events. I surely hope not, but if I am, continue to follow me on social media because I'll definitely have the updates there. And in my closing, can I just go ahead and say my closing? So in my closing, I want to reiterate what I said last Thursday on Your Voice with the NRP. On that one is speak up. That Nevis suffered a blow recently in the loss of our former Premier Vance Amry, and I just want to, every opportunity I get, offer condolences to his wife and his children and others who mourn. And I just want to wish them the very best, because losing a loved one, for anybody to lose a loved one, it's difficult. And again, to the people of Nevis, it doesn't matter if we have difference of opinion, we have different political views, we are going to give respect where respect is due. And it could have been one of our family members. So yes, you may be saying, I'm an NRP, why are you doing that? No, it's okay. He was a former premier, and him and I got along well, and I give respect where respect is due. Rest in peace, His Excellency Vance Amry.
There's never a dull moment with J.D. Keynes. It has been a very interesting hour. 1 year and 1 day ago, she was launched, and we're already seeing enormous gains with Keynes. Thank you for joining us. It's been a lovely evening. Good night.
Your voice with the NRP. This and every Monday, 8:30 to 10 p.m. Join host Stephen Semanas and the NRP candidates as they amplify your voice.
The views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcast